Before you today and give this message of hope and love. I have a son that will be 24, as Marie said, on Tuesday. But his life was cut short because of a stray bullet that ended any career, whether it be athletic or professional or in the business world. On August 8th, 2010, my family and my life was forever changed when cowards, I repeat, cowards, capitalized cowards who call themselves gangbangers, hid behind a fence, fired 2 bullets from a 9mm. 9mm jammed, so that wasn't good enough. Then they put out a semi-automatic weapon, fired 50 rounds into a crowd of about 75 people. The intended target was not my son. My son just happened to be standing near the intended target. They came from the south side of East Main Street, and they went to the east side of East Main Street, where my son was visiting with his father. My son was shot and was immediately transitioned to heaven, or in other words, to be blunt, instantly murdered. He was struck by a bullet that was meant for someone else. It was gang-related and the intended targets were standing near him. It's sad when you can't enjoy your own friends in your own neighborhood because trespassers have come into the place where you call home and disrupt your familiar surroundings. What hurts me the most is those intended targets were his friends, so-called friends. They grew up together. They go to Fairmore Elementary School and play basketball together since they were 5 years old. Some decide to go to college. Some decide to go to the military. Some decide to go and work. And then you have those that have the get-rich-or-die-trying mentality. Brandon only asks that they keep that lifestyle away from him. They played basketball together, and when basketball time was over, everyone went their separate ways. It's no different than all of us gathered here together today. You don't know me. I don't know you. So when we leave this place, you go about your lifestyle. I go about my lifestyle. But if your lifestyle is a lifestyle of a menace to society, if you will, keep it away from me. And I know you will respect that I would do the same for you. Let me tell you a little about my son. I stand here a mother of an amazing son who was a college student in the School of Architecture, an avid artist, awesome basketball player, loved kids, loved his sisters and brother, loved his family. He was my first son. He became my best friend, my guardian, and my baby boy, as I called him. My son's life wasn't restricted. He didn't have to wear colors to define himself. He had identity in his Christian beliefs and in himself. That's why I can stand before you with no reservations, no guilt, or embarrassment. These gang members grew up with him. And as we're children, we pick and choose our best friends at an early age. We spend countless days and nights with them. As we grow older, we have choices. Staying in the streets for whatever reason was not my son's choice. But he had friends. When you get a relationship with someone, you don't just diminish that relationship because someone chooses a different choice. You still love them. You still pray that their lifestyle changes. But you don't walk away. You just say, you know what? That's not me. No one's perfect. I know my son didn't have a perfect picture because none of us have a perfect. We all have blemishes. But he stood for Christ.
Amen.
Christ was number one in his life.
Amen.
When you stand for the right thing, you have a foundation in Christ. You have not wronged or disrespected anyone. You can walk with your head high and not consistently looking over your shoulder. And you're not bound or restricted to a lifestyle. You can dress freely and live a relatively normal life. Gangs are limited to their lifestyle. They follow a dress code. They have to carry a weapon. They sell drugs, rob, murder, and are restricted to where they can go and who they can be associated with. I ran across a Crip. He wanted to go visit he lived on one side of Columbus, needed to go visit his mom. But unfortunately, he couldn't visit his mom because he had to go through blood territory to visit his mom. Restricted lifestyle. I met a local high school student. I mentor up at East High School sometimes. A young man walked up to me after class. I'm known as Mama T. I adopt everybody. I love everybody, and if you ain't got a mama, I'm mama, okay? Well, he walked up to me after class and he said, he's 16 years old, had all his red on. At East High there is no dress code. He says, Mama T, I got a baby on the way. I said, you're 16 years old, you're a baby yourself. I said, and when you have a baby, your little boy looks at you and says, you know what, Dad? I want to be a doctor. And I said, what do you say to that? And he said, well, you know what? As long as he ain't working on a Crip, I don't care. I said, really? I said, okay. I said, how about you have a little girl? And your little girl decides, I'm going into law enforcement. And Daddy, you will be the first person I arrest and take to jail. I wanted to talk about the relationship between Brandon and Maurice. But I'm going to hold that private between Maurice and I. Maurice is an awesome young man. And I know the relationship that Maurice and my son had. What I will tell you, fought like cats and dogs. I got a phone call every day. Maurice and Brandon are fighting. Put them in the corner. It turns out to be inseparable. Maurice wrote me the most amazing poem about Brandon. And I tell everybody, people ask me, how can you do this? I can do this because God said this is what I want you to do. Amen. God says he's not dead. Amen. He is still alive. And you need to allow that legacy to continue to live on. As long as I talk about him, that keeps his life alive. Yes. I know to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord, but that doesn't stop his legacy from living on. Amen. Imagine getting a phone call in the middle of the night, and what seems to be a 10-minute trip down the street takes hours. I'm human, I'm flesh, and I'm a mom first. Amen. And God understands that. Mm-hmm. And I told the Lord, Father, if the shooter is there, he is going to die tonight. Because I am a mom first. I am human first. I am flesh first. I live in Reynoldsburg. We take that long trip down Main Street. Tape, lights everywhere, more than I can describe. And before my husband pulled up to the pavement, before I got out the car and set my feet on the ground, God spoke to me just as loud as I'm speaking to you. I got him, and I'm going to take care of you. And ever since August 8th, 2010, God has taken care of me every day. He has shown himself faithful to me every day, whether it's through my children, through my husband, through mentoring, through speaking to you all. I see God every day. I'd like to grab some of the gangbangers that are running around up the streets, up and down the streets that are so tough. And I would love for them to see what I saw. Imagine walking up to someone laying down and you just grab and half the head's gone. about going to a morgue where they're fixing up a body, and they have to put silly putty or glue on the face to keep the body parts on. They don't see that side. If you're man enough to do the crime, be man enough to stick around. Because when I got to the crime scene, it was empty. There was no one there. Many that are, I'm so sorry. Gang members are forgotten by their so-called friends after all the hype is over. Many are killed by their so-called friends and gang affiliates that they call street family. Make one wrong move and your life is ended. Make one wrong move. My son was murdered 2 days later because they shot the wrong person. The shooter was murdered 2 days later by his own gang member. People should be able to enjoy life wherever they want without the worries that they might not make it home or inside their house. My organization is not because we lost a menace to society, but because I lost a respectable Christian college student that was in the process of planning a future for himself and his family. As responsible parents, we must educate ourselves about gangs and their culture so we can recognize the warning signs. We live in an age where streets, video games, entertainers are raising our children. We need to encourage and support what they're interested in. Play a part in their school and their school activities. Establish consistent rules, and most importantly, talk and listen to your children. Listen to your children. You'll find out a whole lot about them if you just sit down and just give them just a little bit of time to just listen. In the event of my organization, I'm sorry. Our kids are looking for role models. And if you're not that positive influence in their life, they'll find it on the streets. They'll find it. They'll find it. If they don't find it, it will find them. And you can move from state to state to state to state, and you'll still find it, or it will find you. My organization is MOVE, Mothers Overcoming Violence Everywhere. I speak to mothers all over. I speak to students all over. I'm going to try to cut this short and just give you just one more brief example. I talked with a mom a couple weeks ago whose son lost his life, but he lost his life in a shootout. And she and I sat across the table. I cried more than she did. She no emotion whatsoever. And I asked her, I said, what's wrong with this picture? And she said, well, I know my son sold drugs. I know my son was a gang. He was just trying to put food on the table. You know, I know he dropped out of school and he did this, and that. And I said, and as a mom, you're okay with that? She said, but that's all we had. I said, no, that's not all you had. That's your child. That's someone you love. That's someone you birthed. That's a part of you. That's your DNA. And you allowed that to happen. We all have to transition from this life at some point. It's inevitable to get around death. And I just want to leave you with this. What will your legacy be? I can look around this room and see so much positivity in this room. Everybody worshiping and praising the Lord just makes my heart cry. I love to see true worshipers. I love to see true women and men of God. That's the only way we're going to make it out of this world safe. We're going to turn into a third world country one day, the way our country is being dwindled down now to nothing. I'm a mother that consoles other mothers or family members 2 or 3 times a week behind losing a child or loved one behind street or gang violence. 2 or 3 times a week. I'm not talking about Chicago. I'm talking about here. right here in Columbus, Ohio, right here in the suburbs, if you will. It shouldn't be this way. We should be celebrating after every basketball, football, graduation, wedding, or just being in the presence of each other. Not a homegoing celebration of a child.
That's right. Amen.
How many mothers or family members do you see starting up organizations that are parents of children that are gays? My heart cries out to them. And I'm there to help. Whatever it is I can do, I'm there to help. Let me leave you with this last message. Your time and talents are so valuable. Don't waste them. Be wise in your life choices and your friends you choose to hang with, because your talents and dreams can be stripped immediately. I look around and see positive in everyone and know you can make a difference. But remember, it starts with you, and at the end of the day, the decision is yours. Wanting to be someone you're not is the waste of the amazing, wonderful person that you are.
Amen.
And I want to thank you all for hearing me out, listening to what I had to say. My children are about falling out, going to sleep. But I want to thank my children. I have to say this. I thank you all. I thank you so much for your patience, your love, your understanding, and for being you and loving your brothers so much. And we know when this life is over, we know we will be transitioned over to the kingdom and see him again.
Amen.
I thank you all. God bless you. I'm available. If you know someone that's having a hard time, Maurice knows how. I'll give Pastor all my information. Please, I'm here to help, because I don't want to see another mother go through emotionally what I'm going through behind losing a child, whether it be through gang, street violence, or being an innocent bystander. God bless you all.